Hello everyone and welcome to the Let's Talk More Wrestling podcast. The wrestling podcast where myself, Turbo Tony, and my friend partner in crime as I call you now, Matt Marsander. We review a bunch of pay-per-views and talk about professional wrestling. And as you have noticed by now, if you've already listened to a bunch of the Let's Talk More Wrestling episodes, we do take this quite lax and enjoy ourselves. It's in like the morning. We never record in the morning, so this is
this is before noon. What the hell's going on?
We're used to recording closer to midnight, let alone, you just finished your breakfast, you said.
I have, yeah. I've still sort of like got my coffee to the side, just ready to.
That's it.
It's fine.
We do our main episodes on the weekends, so professional to a team, moving on very quick. That's why I like doing the extras, because I can just be like, I could have a drink here and there, just to enjoy the hopefully our liquid sexy voices, which I hope is actually a thing.
Always the case, yeah.
We are reviewing Fastlane. Fastlane occurred over the weekend, and we have said before a long time that we weren't particularly interested or enthusiastic about the event, but we did watch it.
Yep.
And if we're going to give our thoughts match by match and segment by segment in regards to what we thought about it. One overall theme that I think about Fastlane, unfortunately for me, before we get into the segments, is that while there was some good wrestling on the show, I found that the non-wrestling segments were the most interesting parts of the show. And that's not an invitation for Vince to be like, oh, okay, fair enough, we'll have more non-wrestling segments.
More half-hour hooks.
Yeah, no, it's just that I think there was WWE did a poor job building up the event, I believe, and there's a lot of matches here that could have done with a better build-up, and there's some matches that arguably shouldn't have happened. And one thing that I thought was pretty bad about the event that made it look a lot worse is the Memphis crowd.
Yeah,
I thought the crowd were pretty shit throughout this entire show, if I'm honest. And as I said there, I thought there was at least some good wrestling to be found here, so it wasn't.
Well, the one thing I don't like, because I watched it, I finished watching it yesterday, as we're recording this, so Tuesday.
Yeah.
But I see and read like loads of things like, oh, like the Memphis crowd just shat all over it, sort of thing, and I'm just like,
there's a difference of
they were quite vocal at points.
When I deem a crowd has shit over something, it's when they chant stuff that's derivative of the match, right? So
yeah.
that famous match that Sheamus and Randy Orton had, they were shit on by the fans in that match. This is years ago now. I don't think any match here got shit on. I just think that there wasn't much of a response. There's one match in particular that was like the crowd were well and truly dead, and I was quite shocked at that fact as well. But yeah, I think that arguably it depends on what WWE perceive it to be, but having any reaction, even the crowd shitting on the match, is better than no reaction at all.
Yeah,
that's the train of thought that you'll hear a lot of wrestlers say, but I don't think WWE look at it that way anymore. I think they're much rather silence than having people shout derivative towards the match, but I don't know.
I'd rather hear derivatives, at least then I know that it's like, well, at least they're talking about it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think that WWE want to blanket out. I think they should learn a lesson when fans aren't into that sort of match. Okay, something's obviously wrong with the match we put out and the wrestlers that's in it, but they choose not to look at it that way, as we know. So let's get into the matches here. We'll go through the full run out. I've got the complete run out of the show. As I said, there was quite a few matches here and two very interesting segments. So we started off with Ziggler, Rowan and Ryback against Rollins, Kane and Big Show. One of those matches that were thrown together with very little
we need filler.
Yeah, essentially. You would think that Ziggler, Rowan and Ryback, all three of those guys, back when they were doing Survivor Series, all seemed like hot commodities. And even coming out of it a little bit, they seemed like they were starting to get some footing, especially Ziggler. He was winning matches and he won the IC title and all this sort of stuff. Now you look at these three guys and you're wondering, Jesus Christ, they just haven't done anything with them since then.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a shame. The match, however, I thought was a pretty good opener, and I think this is one of the matches that the fans were actually genuinely into. I thought the fan
Yeah,
was.
I couldn't hate on this match.
It did. Listen, when you put Ziggler, at very least Ziggler in an opening match, you know what you're going to get, even if it's the
That's
six man.
it. And you got Ziggler and Rollins.
And Rollins, yeah, exactly. So these are guys that can definitely know what they can do. I think the main reason why I wasn't enthused in this match is because it didn't really matter who won and who lost.
It did stink of last minute crap. We need an opener.
Yeah, yeah,
Like on Raw, it's like, oh, we got like these guys doing nothing. Shit.
yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, I think this is like a trend that's going into WrestleMania. I think when we get to WrestleMania, we're going to have a lot of either rehash or thrown together matches. And I hate that because I think WrestleMania should be a card stacked with matches you want to see. They've
Yeah.
got, 12 months to book it, essentially, and lead up to that point, but it doesn't ever seem to get that way.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think WrestleMania 29, I think, was very indicative of them throwing together matches almost for no reason.
Yeah.
Um, but we can only talk about that, obviously, as the card comes up and see, what they're actually going to come up with. But I do see a lot of matches that either will be rematches of stuff that's happened, um, or it will be just thrown together stuff, and I hope that isn't the case, but still. So yeah, we said that Ziggler, Rowan, and Ryback should probably get the win. I still stand that they should have got the win. They didn't get the victory here.
Yeah. Like, just, uh,
Yeah. Now, to me, honestly, it doesn't mean that much because the match is pointless to begin with. But it was a bit weird that they gave Rollins, Kane, and Big Show the victory, and then they had Randy Orton come down and beat them up. It was a little bit odd in that sense. That let them win the match and then, clean by any standards. No problem.
yeah. And then have the guy come down and make the attack. It's like, well, surely for some sort of story, you'd want him to cost the match.
Wouldn't that make his opponents much more incensed about what he's going to do? That he
That's
cost.
it. Like, I could have done it. I could have beaten them, but no, you had to. No, okay,
Yeah,
there we
it's,
go.
it's classic.
I'd buy that.
Yeah, it's classic heel versus face, build up 101. You cost him his
Yeah.
match, and he's going for revenge, to get back at him, and why not cost him the match and stuff like that. But I heard that the storyline that they're going with is that Orton is like rejoining the Authority at very least, like a double. I don't know how that's all going. We'll have to review Raw and see what that's all about.
Well,
But
still watch Raw.
if that's the case, then come on, Rollins stamped his face into concrete. I think that's pretty good for him to say, "Fuck that! I'm not teaming up with the guy."
He got grief.
Yeah, exactly. But still, maybe they've got a big plan down the line. Orton was behind it all along, and like he's got a plan set up to put Rollins full sense of security, all that sort of stuff. I'm not as sure personally, but Orton did look good though. I would have to say here, got
Yeah.
a good pop. And he had to come back sooner or time. I believe that they could have brought him back last month, if they just chose to do it at this point. That's okay. But yeah, I thought this was a decent enough opener. I just thought that just very odd that they would give Rollins, Kane, and Big Show the victories. I think that those three guys have been
I
fine.
didn't need the win, really.
Yeah, not really.
And if anything, you can then sort of start breaking some dissension in the ranks by just, if they lost, have Rollins just go, you cost us the match.
Yeah, that's the way it seemed to be going, and it seemed to be that would be, I think, a lot more of an enjoyable route.
Yeah.
But
Like, if Rollins is meant to becoming, like, the face, like, the new future of the WWE or whatever, and, like, oh, he's got the Money in the Bank contract and all this, and he's ready to go to become the face of the company, then why is he still hanging around with Kane and the Big Show? He should literally be like, fuck you guys, I'm going solo.
well, that will eventually happen.
I know he's with the Authority, but it's
Yeah.
just like, it could have at least cost something.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. Like this, it's like I said, it's not too much of a like even. I hate that saying that wins and losses don't matter because I think nowadays they do. I do firmly believe that wins and losses do matter, and I don't think I think it's down to. I've always said this before. You have to weigh up how much damage is done to one person over how much push the other person gets from getting the victory.
Yeah.
And if it's on the wrong side of the scale, then I don't believe you should do it that way, unless you've got something well planned down the line, which, as we know, WWE don't tend to do. So that's what was it? Oh, Dean Ambrose lost against Seth Rollins, but he'll get this great rivalry with Bray Wyatt and he'll come out on top, but he didn't, and.
And now he's floating around in the mid card for the IC title.
Yeah, exactly. Being an idiot, by the way. No, that was one of the matches I disliked on the show, but we'll get into that. But yeah, with going back to that point, like I said, this match, because it doesn't really matter, it doesn't really care, but it does care over the fact that, man, these faces just have lost all their momentum since Survivor Series, Ziggler
Yeah.
included. I mean, Rowan, no one really cared anyway, but I remember that episode. It's actually one of the most watched episodes we did when we were talking about the episode of Raw where they made Ryback look like the toppest hot commodity free agent in professional wrestling,
Yeah.
and it was like,
Like
whoa.
everyone wanted him on their team.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, this is cool. I like this. And now it's just like, oh, no, he's just losing. So
Never
I don't
mind.
expect him to win every match, but he's losing an awful lot of matches.
Yeah.
um, maybe he's just got this thing where he can never win on pay per view along those lines or something like
Do you remember a couple of weeks back? So it was during this match that I sort of realised. Do you remember a couple of weeks ago where we were just sort of like, oh, a bit worried for Rowan,
that. Mm.
and like, and now look at it because Harper's just almost like nowhere to be seen,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
now Rowan's like sort of out in the big picture. So it's just like, but
I think I stand what I said before. I think this is just how the way the
the
chips have
way it's been
fallen.
booked as the
Yeah.
story, yeah,
Like Rowan's been lucky, I think, in that sense because he's in. It's when he's in these matches. He is so lacking in comparison to the other guys, and it's not particularly his fault. He's not as experienced, and he's been put in this rivalry just to be the big guy, the muscle with it.
yeah,
But he's like almost like he's like been put in with the big dogs, and he's not exactly ready for that at the moment. It's showing a lot, unfortunately, in these matches. But no, I expected to flip around. I think after WrestleMania, once they finally got over this Survivor Series storyline, whatever happens there, then then I don't think you'll have these three guys teaming up with each other
oh
much
no,
more. So, and once that happens, believe me, if they ain't going to do anything with Ziggler and Ryback, they sure as hell ain't doing anything with Roman. That's
yeah,
absolutely sure. Moving on, Stardust versus Goldust, and here is the match where the crowd said nothing. All those hundreds of thousands, not hundreds of thousands, hundreds of people, thousands of people in that arena, and I could not hear a single one of them. It was a weird match to watch. I was watching this, waiting for something, maybe to get the crowd into it. It was nothing, and I have to say that if this is one of the last Goldust matches we ever get, that's a real shame. That one of his last matches against his brother, no less, will be possibly one of his most awkward because it's one of the ones that I'll never want to go back and watch again.
like as you heard it, there was a lot of Cody chants though, wasn't there?
Yeah, occasionally, but there was
Yeah,
huge
yeah,
points in the match of which,
just silence.
yeah, it was almost like you could have had someone just shout out whatever they wanted, and it probably would have got heard on camera.
Yeah,
It was a little bit painful to watch at times, and that's what a dead crowd can give to a match.
yeah.
I don't think the match itself was that great. It seemed like to me that they were saving something for later, either WrestleMania or these two guys will be
A
in
bit
the
reserved, yeah.
yeah. And I do hope that they do get that match at WrestleMania, and it does, and it's a good one because I wasn't particularly impressed with this match, and I thought this could be a show stealer between these two guys, but it wasn't that. It wasn't to be that case. Um, yeah, I just thought it was too slow at a point. It never really got momentum. The finish seemed out of nowhere. No one cheered the finish. It was just very awkward.
I think it might be because I think the finish was botched.
Yeah, it was botched pretty bad, to be honest. Not pretty bad, but it was botched. And I think everyone can see
It's
that.
just like that wasn't a 3 count.
No.
I'm sorry.
Um, and maybe they'll play up that, in the thing, make use of it. Oh, you didn't really beat me, so now we have to have another match, and make it the retirement match. But a lot of people are stating, including me on this show, stated that we do expect Goldust to retire. There is also that hint that he just doesn't want to. He just wants to keep going. That may be
Yeah,
a case. I don't think so, but that may be the case. We just don't know. If he was retiring, I'm sure that we would have heard more about it. In the rumor mill by now. But
yeah.
I heard nothing about him retiring yet. So Yeah, I hope Goldust Stardust they get one more crack, and I hope it's at WrestleMania. But more than likely, what I see it happening is that they'll more than likely be putting that Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and then they'll have a standoff in it at some point, and
They've already announced some people for it. It's going to be a thing again.
yeah, Miz I think is in it. I think Miz Dow will probably end up being in it. So, but that's where I see it going. I would be very happy if they. I mean, Goldust has been such a long worker for them, and the one thing he's always wanted is a WrestleMania match with his brother. And I'd argue if that's ultimately what they're going to do, then there was no way that they should have had this match at Fastlane. Arguably, I don't think they should have had a match. I think if you've got a match on WrestleMania, don't ever make it a rematch of
Yeah,
the month before. I think that's a really bad idea because it needs to be excitable, it needs to be new, it needs to be fresh. Part of the sheen, if they do a Stardust and Goldust match at WrestleMania, which I guess because the fan response they probably won't now, then it's got part of that sheen's gone off of it. It's not the first match of these guys against each other anymore. You know, and I know they might have wrestled each other, but this is years ago. This is the first in this rivalry. You know, and I just thought that it's the same with Cena and Rusev. Yeah, if they were going to wrestle each other at WrestleMania, and that was always the right idea, then that should be their first match
yeah.
at WrestleMania. It takes the gloss off it of being the second match in a series of matches. Tag team titles, I have no doubt I don't know actually, are you happy about this? Cesaro
I don't mind this.
No? Okay. Cesaro and Kids versus the Usos. I thought this match was good, albeit nothing too spectacular, but still good.
Yeah.
Still good, still competent.
We finally got to see a Cesaro deadlift superplex.
Yeah, which we haven't had.
We haven't seen in a while.
There's a lot in his arsenal, which is really good, that they just seem to have neutered him with. He just hasn't used a lot of these awesome moves that really got him huge this time last year. You know?
Yeah.
Man, go on the network and look at Elimination Chamber last year when Cesaro's doing his shit in the Elimination Chamber. People are going mental for that stuff.
Do you know what? That was the worst part recently because I was like on like a forum on the net, and it was just like, this time last year we had Elimination Chamber, and in that chamber was blah 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 blah, and Cesaro, and I'm just like, oh, don't remind me.
Hell the Mighty Four, huh?
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's also that whole, like, he was one of the top 10 matches of last year as well on Raw with Cena.
Oh, that match was so good. I remember that match. It was fantastic.
And, like, his feud with Orton, it's just, like, top tier. And they were amazing matches. And now we just, I don't know what happened. Vince suddenly just like, he's a foreigner.
He doesn't.
Vince is a racist.
He just suddenly decided he doesn't have it, and then fucking hell did his stock drop in the moment Vince decided that. Fucking hell. But once Vince decides it, and it's got, like I said, I've always thought here that that if Cesaro wants to get any further in his career, then I think it would be outside WWE. I don't think in WWE he'll ever get any further than what he is now. I've said that all along.
Yeah.
You know, once they've got that thought of you, it's really hard. The first thing that Vince thought of Cena when he saw him was he could be my top guy, and guess what? That first impression stayed, and that's the reason why. Yeah. There's been tons of people that Vince has been like, "You're just going to be a loser," and they've been booked as losers.
Yeah.
You know, he's the ultimate decider. So, but anyway, let's talk about this match.
Guys who watch TNA, low key's probably a fine example of that.
Yeah. Which I haven't watched TNA in ages, but that's not too much of an issue for me.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. Let's talk about this match. I didn't think it was up to scratch with the matches that the Usos had against the Wyatts, but that's really hard to do considering those matches were excellent. I think this is still fine. Maybe I'm being a little bit too elitist, and I'm like, oh, it wasn't as good as this match. It was competent. It was good. It was right.
That's it.
I can't say I was bored watching it, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I thought it was way too early for Cesaro and Kidd to challenge for the belts. So, in my opinion, it's way too early for them to win said belts, which they do at this match. They become the new tag team champions. But I think I'm not, like I said, I don't have that much of an issue of it because we've said all along that the division is really shallow at the moment. So, what else can you do?
Well, I hear that apparently Vince is back on his tag team high horse. So,
well, he's gonna have to do a lot of work.
Well, Sin Cara, the Lucha Dragons, like Sin Cara and Kalisto, who made their debut on Main Event.
Yeah, well, I'm under no illusions that they could make a good tag division, but it's going to take a lot of work because their current division at the moment sucks outright. The
Yeah,
fact is, one of their best teams has broken up in Goldust and Stardust.
yeah.
You can't have the Usos as good as they are, and I still think they're the best tag team that WWE have got by a clear mile, by the way. You can't have them just constantly just keep running over, steamrolling over
Well,
people.
the thing is, they're still rookies. If you think on the greater scale of things, like Goldust and Stardust, if they were like with Goldust in the tag team division, a guy who's been tag champion with 3 Hall of Famers, to have that sort of guy in your divisions invaluable backstage.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just sort of like, who else are we going to run ideas off? Who knows the business?
This is one of those things that maybe you should reach in the pocket and start looking at. Okay, we brought Bubba Ray back for one. Let's get him, and maybe if we could try and get Devon in. These guys. I know
Spike!
I'm not asking.
Let's get Spike.
Yeah, but what I mean is that, get a tag team in there, an experienced one that, isn't going to dominate them, but can teach some of these newer tag teams, this is how you run a really high quality tag team match. And you can give them a run with the belts, I've got no issue with them doing that, but, you don't make them the vocal point of your tag division, they're there to show and elevate other people. But at the moment, as you say, especially with Goldust leaving that division, it leaves the division extremely empty with those sort of people. I mean, you could even bring back the New Age Outlaws, a bit of a longer stretch than they usually do because they can go,
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe not so much Road Dog, but just
oh yeah,
Billy Gunn.
Billy Gunn. Like, I think that guy doesn't get enough credit for staying in as good of a shape over a long period of time as he does.
Yeah.
I
In fact, I think he looks better.
Yeah, well, that's to be argued at the point. But the main point I'm trying to say here is that I don't have that much of an issue with Cesaro and Kid winning the belts because realistically, who the fuck else is going to win it? I have got absolutely no intentions of lost
the
Matadors.
Ascension.
Well, the Ascension seems to be going on the other path, and I that's fine with me. But like the primetime players that have reformed,
Primetime players.
like I don't see them as tag team champions. And like I said, I like both men. It's just the way that WWE have booked them. They're no one. They're absolutely nothing. So, realistically, who else are you going to give it to? That tag division is very, very... And one of the things we said about NXT as well is, unfortunately, the NXT tag division also has the same problem.
Yeah.
So, that's the big issue there, unfortunately. But yeah, you're happy with Cesaro Kid winning the belts?
Yeah, I got no problem with it.
I'll probably have a rematch at Mania. I hope that they do a multi-team match at Mania. Like I said, make it a ladder match, make it really fun. But I get the feeling that they probably won't do that.
Make it Mania worthy.
To be honest, this reeks of pre-show match. Tag team title. Pre-show match.
Yeah.
That's what it reeks of to me. And that's the way I see it where I see it going, unfortunately. So there you are. A year ago, Cesaro was the winner of the first ever Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. And this year, he more likely will be on the pre-show. And he's lucky to be there. Jesus Christ. With the way that WWE have booked him. Moving on from that, we had the Triple H Sting segment. One of the few bits of Fastlane I was very interested in. And I would say one of the feuds that WWE has yet to make a serious misstep with. And you could say, okay, what about the fake Sting bit that happened? I don't think that is a misstep. I like the idea of it. It was just poorly executed. But I don't see that as being like a massive misstep that actually took away from the feud, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get you.
So if you got Sting and Triple H here, and like I said, one of the few feuds that I think is working as intended, and that's in WWE sense that's really good for them at the moment. I must say, I thought Sting's new apparel, he's got like the new jacket, he's like sporting red and stuff like that. He looked far less, and I don't want to be disrespectful to the man. I love him as a legend of this business, of the industry, and I'm a huge fan of Sting, as you know. But I've always said that when his first appearance at the Survivor Series, I said he looked old, right? There's no way of getting around it. He looked old. I thought he looked a lot less like that on this segment, personally.
Yeah.
Whatever he was wearing, the way he looked, maybe he's just in better shape now, preparing for this match. He's obviously not going to be. He's not going to be more physically imposing than Triple H. Triple H is tanked. and he's younger. That's the way it is. But Sting looked like he could. He looked at a very least moderate. He looked a little bit imposing there with the paint and everything like that. And that's fine. I can buy into that at the very least. Whereas before, he did look a bit old. But here, and I think also it helped the fact that these two had a physical altercation with one another. And Sting was obviously on the worst side of that in terms of the punch up. But it's good that at least he's ready to get slam down and take a few hits here and there.
It's good to go.
Yeah. He won't be taking that many bumps at WrestleMania, I can guarantee you. But at very least, it looks like he's ready to. They could have built up all this time and not had Triple H and Sting touch each other and all those lot, and then you're wondering. But then you've got him here. He's taking at least a bump, and he looks like he's. I've always said, looking at him, he looks like he's just got one more match left in him, which does pose the question, why does it seem to be the plan that next year he goes against Taker? I don't think he's got 2 matches left in him. I think he's got 1 match left in him.
Nah.
That's my opinion.
We'll see.
But I did think the segment was brilliant. I thought Triple H's promo was really good. Really, when he gets his teeth into a feud that you can tell that he enjoys, he does some good work, Triple H, on the mic.
Oh, yeah.
But how did you find the segment? Did you like it?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I quite like the fact that it definitely showed sort of Sting getting the one up on Triple H. It's like, oh, I'm so here and I'm ready to do this or whatever. And it's just like, I have my bat. Shit, he has a bat. Sort of thing. Sting has his equalizer.
Yeah. I always thought that they probably wouldn't do the bat because of the whole, they're very PG now and they don't want people hitting other people with bats and stuff. But I honestly didn't see that as much of an issue, and it seems like WWE doesn't see that as much of an issue either as well now. So,
yeah,
which is good, because it's like almost like Triple H to a sense that the weapon is thought of. With Sting, when you think of Sting, you think of him as a bat, but the bat doesn't make the character. It's just
Triple H with his sledgehammer.
Yeah, Triple H is still Triple H without his sledgehammer, but it's just something extra, and I thought it worked there, and it's fine. Honestly, one of the few feuds that WWE, all the cogs are turning in the right way, and you have to say fair play to them for that, because a lot of the rivalries at the moment I feel aren't moving in synchronized fashion.
Yeah, sort of struggling along.
Yeah. So, fair play to both these guys. And I tell you what, I am very interested to see this match for numerous reasons. One, to see, obviously, Sting in a WWE wrestling match is just one thing that everyone wants to see. But to see just how much Sting has left in the tank, does he have enough for 2 matches? Because it does. I'm hearing more and more reports that next year in Texas, Undertaker's hometown, that's when they both retire against each other. I'm not sold yet whether or not Sting or even Undertaker's got 2 more matches left in them. I just don't know. 1, stretching it. 2, I don't know. So we'll see. Maybe I get proved wrong and Sting bounces all around that ring like he hasn't done since he was like 30, but I fucking doubt it. But we'll see.
He doesn't actually come out of Mania. He doesn't come out as Crow Sting. He comes out as like original Ultimate Warrior Sting.
Bleach blonde Sting,
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh god, that I think people that would
happen.
I've just got really weird thoughts now, but still.
I don't want to know.
Yeah. Divas Championship, moving swiftly on from that, of course. Divas Championship, Paige versus Nikki Bella. I thought this match was okay.
Meh.
Yeah, meh. I think is probably the best I can say. I think that a lot of people were thinking this match was horrendous. I think that people think that way because the crowd were dead for it. I think that was the main issue. A dead crowd makes any match look worse. Doesn't matter what match.
Yeah.
And Nikki gets
there are some matches I've seen. There's not been particularly great matches, but because the crowd have been so in it, it's added that extra level to it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean, the crowd for a match is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why the CM Punk Cena match at Money in the Bank, 2011.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, because the crowd were throughout the whole 50 minutes of entrance to finish of that match, they were going ballistic.
Must have been more than that.
Well, I'm going from like I think the match itself was like 45 minutes, so yeah, so maybe I don't know. It was, but like I said, that the crowd were a huge factor of why that match was so successful.
Yeah.
But you know, that's. I mean, when we're talking about that, Nikki Bella against Paige was no CM Punk against Cena. So Nikki gets to win via the tights, of which I thought she barely even used. I thought that was a little bit botched of her actually.
She touched the tights.
Yeah. And then Paige looked as if she was going to cry. Don't have a problem with the likes of Charlotte crying over, getting teary over losing her championship, over the epic reign that she had. But Paige losing because she lost a challenge at the belt in a 5-minute match just doesn't have the same sort of impact.
Yeah.
I like Paige being a badass, and, badasses can still cry. I'm not saying a badass, well, you wouldn't see Austin do that, but you know what I mean? To a degree. I just don't think it was right for her to act in that fashion, But still, I imagine a lot of people skip this match, and I don't particularly blame them. And apparently on Raw there was a 30-second match. If there is a 30-second Divas match on Raw, guys, me and Matt are going to go fucking ballistic. We really will, because I've been hearing tons of shit about rights for divas, or what is this Twitter hashtag that's been going around recently. And
it genuinely did happen.
Yeah, so get ready for this weekend's episode, because Jesus Christ, if we're back to the dark days of 30-second matches, let's move on, Matt, because I want to save all that for the weekend so our fans can savour it in its full entirety. However, Intercontinental title match. Ambrose against Barrett. I really didn't like this match. Really didn't like it.
No.
And it wasn't so much for the match itself, it's because of the moronic finish of this match. As moronic as Dean Ambrose seems at the moment. And you know what I'm getting at here.
You know what? I don't even remember what you're getting on about.
Okay, so I'll explain it to you. Right?
It's just that sort of point where it's just like, Did I watch it? I remember seeing him in the ring. What happened? I don't remember.
Well, I'll tell you. Right, essentially what happens is that Barrett, they have a physical match back and forth, but Ambrose is getting the better of the IC champ, so he decides, I'm going to take my belt and walk out, right? Count out loss, retains championship. Ambrose is like, well,
that's it.
I'm not going to let you do it. I'm going to keep throwing you back in. Well done, Ambrose. So he tries so hard, multiple times Barrett's trying to get out of the ring to stop him from getting DQ'd and having the belt taken away, his chance of taking away, winning the championship legit. And he tries multiple times, Ambrose, to keep it legal at very least. And the minute he does all that work to get him back into the ring, he keeps stamping the guy until he gets disqualified.
Yeah.
What the fuck? It just makes Ambrose look like an absolute fucking idiot. He does all this work to make sure that Barrett doesn't get DQ'd, so he can get himself DQ'd. What? Who thought this was a good idea? And obviously, this is the first of 2 matches that are going to happen between this guy. And it does look like WrestleMania will eventually come Rematchamania, if this does come to a point. Because that way you'll have Ambrose and Barrett at Mania. In a lower tier match. You're going to have Rusev and Cena at WrestleMania. That's a rematch. You may even have Paige and Nikki Bella again, I don't know, at WrestleMania. They'll probably do a multi-diva match, so that probably won't happen. Tag team title rematch, that will most likely happen. That's going to be a rematch. Stardust and Goldust, there's a chance they could have a match. That could be a rematch. Jesus Christ. I have no idea why they went with this. It's a stupid idea. And if they're going for Ambrose to win the IC title at WrestleMania, okay, but then have Barrett be the one that runs away, so Ambrose has to then chase him again to get a no disqualification match.
Yeah.
Not make Ambrose look like an idiot twice. This is the second time he's cost himself a match. The first time that he tried to attack Bray Wyatt with a TV, it blew up in his face and made him look like an idiot. Now he looks even more like an idiot this time. I thought it was moronic. And they're booking Ambrose as this lunatic fringe, he can do anything. Well, apparently he's also a fucking moron. So
he's a little bit too lunatic.
He's lunatic to the point that I don't mind having crazy characters as long as they're not idiots. You can have crazy as long as they get to a point. Ambrose looks like, I really want this IC title match. Let me get myself DQ'd. All
Yeah,
that work, the
I want it
man.
so bad.
The storyline is all the work Ambrose had to do to get Barrett even to sign that contract. You know, all the work he had to do to keep him in the match because Barrett kept trying to escape, and then he gets DQ.
Yeah.
Fucking ridiculous. Really ridiculous. Whoever thought of that idea, it was a stupid fucking idea. That's just the bottom line of it.
Hang your head in
Hang
shame.
your head, yeah. Bray Wyatt segment, I thought this was wonderful. I really did. Undertaker's music hits, the familiar gong.
The druids and everything.
That's it.
I loved it.
You're thinking that maybe Undertaker's going to actually show up at Fastlane and he's going to respond to it. I knew first off, as soon as the casket got brought out, I knew that it was Bray Wyatt inside the casket. And he emerges from outside of it looking sadistic. He looks like, man, he must have loved doing this segment, I must imagine. And he cuts a very good promo. And it's the first time that he's called out The Undertaker by name. And, you know, obviously publicly in the middle of the ring.
Yeah.
Well, not in the middle of the ring, he was in the casket. By far the best moment so far in this rivalry that I was looking at this and I was like, there's so much in this segment because it was really entertaining to watch that is going to be used in the vignette video before these two guys have their match. And why not? Because the visual of it, at least, was very
That's
fun.
it. Well, there's one thing I quite like that I'm hearing is the fact there's talk of like not even bringing Taker back at all until Mania.
I disagree. I think that I've always thought this rivalry will get better once the two have a back and forth. And yeah, I'm not asking for them to have like 20-minute promos of Taker always talking, but at very least have Taker, you know, acknowledge the challenge.
Clash it, yeah.
Yeah, at some point, you know. Otherwise, it's going to end up like Bray Wyatt building up to this, which I thought was okay to start off the rivalry, but that's not going to be able to sustain a rivalry over the next 5 weeks leading to Mania. It just won't work. But I didn't hear that he was on Raw this week, so I hope he does show up soon, realistically. But at least we do get an Undertaker match. They're not going the route I thought, where maybe he would go against Brock again down the line, because I thought my initial thought last year was, okay, you know, Brock gets the streak, but they may have a match next year. Taker beats Brock, gets his win back, but retires, you know, from there on out. But Jesus, they're not ready to put Undertaker to rest yet, and it looks like they want 2 more Manias out of him. By far, the way that we looked at the guy, he didn't look in the best shape last year, and he looks worse. So
Yeah.
the time is ticking on the dead man, shall we say? How poetic. But yeah, I thought the promo and the segment itself wonderful, really well executed. And
I don't know. I saw a video with him and Michelle McCool that he didn't look in such bad state. But I think there's only so much you can take from like a man stood there.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, and all this talk is useless without actually having, you know, seeing the guy in the ring. That's why the match at Mania will be interesting to see just how much him and Sting have got left.
Yeah.
But my initial assessment is he ain't got that much left. He didn't look like he had that much left last year, if I'm honest. So last year was one of the worst matches he's had in years against Brock Lesnar. It was very bad. But
Take it, yeah.
so this leads into Cena versus Rusev for the United States Championship. And what a talking point this is. We firmly believed. My recommendation was that Rusev would walk out. I thought he would get DQ'd or something. But my prediction is that he wasn't going to leave without the belt. That he would, for some reason, walk out without the belt. But I agree that my prediction is still wrong because I didn't think he would win the match clean in that sense,
yeah.
you know.
I know.
And you could argue, oh, Lana got involved. It was kind of a mute point, to be honest. It wasn't that much of a distraction, really. I mean, yeah, he got kicked in the nuts.
Oh, he got a low blow. It's like, well, I mean, if that was the case, all he did was stick him in the accolade afterwards. So
yeah.
Look, I'm pretty sure if he'd got another opportunity to put him in the accolade, he'd have won anyway.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah. And you know, we got a very rare sight of John Cena passing out in what I thought was very, very good match between these two guys. I thought this match was very indicative to a lot of people overlook how competent Rusev, for the size he is, the quality that he is already in the ring. I don't think people give him enough
credit for it.
And I think he can get better. So you could be looking at a guy who could be far better than what he gets now, and he's already pretty good. He's not in terms of. I'm not saying, oh wow, he's on the same level as like a Daniel Bryan. No, he's not. But he is good. Just get around
He
it.
currently stands as probably the best big man that WWE have at the moment.
Yeah, you stack him up next to. The likes of Eric Rowan, and the difference in wrestling ability there is astronomical. It really
Yeah.
is. So yeah, I firmly believe that Rusev has done really great, and he didn't look out of sorts here with Cena, and this is exactly the sort of thing that Cena should be doing. He should be helping younger talent. I do firmly believe that he'll win this rivalry, but at the very least, you can have Rusev now with this clean victory. Say all the time in the future, I made John Cena pass out, and that's quite a powerful statement to make.
Yeah.
You know?
Mr. Never Give Up gave up.
Yeah, exactly. You can say that all he wants, and the fact they were building it now, I made John Cena submit. By the record books, it was a win by submission. So in that sense, you can use that. Lana you can use it to all high heaven. And fantastic. So the thing I hated about the Bray Wyatt rivalry with Cena is because even with the victory that Wyatt got, he used tons of children and the Wyatt family to beat John Cena. Rusev didn't need any of that. He just beat him up. It makes Rusev look like a badass. So, fair play. But yeah, I thought this match was actually really good. I was surprised how.
I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought.
I think it's because with Cena being. It's like the immovable object versus the unstoppable force.
Yeah.
Like, it's Cena in a feud, so he's going to win.
Yeah.
But it's Rusev, who's currently on an undefeated streak. Oh, I'm so confused!
Yeah. I do firmly believe that their rematch won't be for the US title. I do believe that. I don't think they don't want the US title on Cena because they deem him above that. And to be honest, he is. But
I think it's given a little bit of credibility though with the fact that with Rusev being the United States champion, who's gone undefeated and has now defeated John Cena in a match for the United States title.
Yeah, it certainly helps. It doesn't do all the work, but it certainly helps. The thing is about championships is that the US title and the IC title didn't lose their credibility overnight, and they won't gain that credibility overnight.
Oh, no, not at all. Like, if Rusev loses to The Miz, then, loses the title to The Miz, then that whole work of trying to regain it is fucked, because, he beat Cena for it. That's a pretty big challenge.
What they should do if they want to keep the belt on Rusev and build him up as this big incomparable US champion, and have someone take the belt off him, it can't be like, okay, Dolph Ziggler's fighting him this week, Dolph Ziggler wins. You need to have it so, okay, if we want, let's say it is Dolph Ziggler. We're using it as an example to eventually get the belt off of Rusev. He will lose to John Cena, but he might, Rusev, I do believe, will keep the title. So. What you need to do then at that point is not next. Okay, we've got a week into the pay-per-view. It's Ziggler against Rusev. We're going to have Ziggler win the belt. It should be 3 months. Okay, 3 months from now, Rusev's going to lose the belt. We need Ziggler to be booked very strong from now until then.
Yeah.
That way he looks like a legitimate competitor, and he's beating guys, and he looks like strong. That's how you build a big title feud between a challenger that looks like he's got a real chance of winning the belt against a champion that's never been beaten for it. Rather than, I've got a match against you at the end of this month. I've been losing tons of matches, but I think I can win it. Oh, I won it.
Next week on Raw. Wins.
Yeah.
What?
you understand what I mean? That's part of the reason
exactly.
why I have a little bit of an issue with the Cesaro and Kid thing, because they've only been tagged. They literally formed their team the same month they got a title shot and won the belts. It's a little bit too quick in that sense. And they lost matches, by the way, during this run-up. So, you have to look into that as well.
Yeah, but they're no longer with Adam Rose, so...
yeah, there is that, yeah. I thought this match well worth watching. I thought the two main events, Cena, Rusev, Bryan, and Reigns. To be honest, out of the two of them, I would be more inclined to watch Cena and Rusev again rather than Bryan and Reigns, personally. But I think that's more because of the shock of the finish, the way that they did it, so...
That's it.
But
I'm sort of thinking, are we about to get loads of gripe?
From what?
We're going to get grief now, aren't we?
Well, because we praised the Cena match off.
No, because we actually liked this Reigns-Bryan match.
Right, so we'll move on to that now, right? Reigns against Bryan. I thought this match was very good.
I enjoyed it.
I thought it was fine. I think anyone that's digging on it...
It definitely sort of stuck with the whole wrestler versus power.
Yeah, I thought that the match was much more methodical, and it was. I thought that it showed that Reigns has a lot more to offer when he's in with someone that's obviously Bryan's better than him, and Bryan would make him look strong, coin the term. But I thought it showed Reigns has a lot more than the Cena syndrome, the 5 moves.
Yeah.
Reigns didn't look
Raw, spear, punch, kick.
in terms of a wrestling match, to be able to look like you're not completely out of place with someone as good as Daniel Bryan, that's a win in my book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I don't think he did look that out of place, Reigns. I thought he looked okay.
I mean, it was a definitive. We know exactly how this match is going to go. But
Yeah.
there were moments where I was just sort of like, "Oh, but ooh,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I always thought that Reigns would get the victory, but the
the match did well to suspend belief."
and maybe that's part of the reason why people dislike it, because maybe some people thought Bryan would have a chance of getting to the main event. He wasn't getting in that main event this year, guys. So
No.
that was the bottom line of it. Maybe the reasons why people dislike the match itself is because of that perception. But when you actually look at the actual in-ring technicality and the actual wrestling in between those 4 sets of ropes, not 4 ropes for Cesaro, 4 sets of ropes. If you actually look at that with all the politics taken out of it, it was a very enjoyable match. So I will take it as that.
Oh yeah.
Now it's obviously not as cut and dry with that always, and I understand, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. But maybe because I'd always known from the beginning that Bryan wasn't winning this match, that it was a lot easier to take. In my sense. So that was the bottom line of it. But yeah, out of the two of them, even though I thought that the Reigns and Bryan match was good, I just, if I had a choice to see that or Cena and Rusev again, like I said, probably would go see Cena and Rusev again personally. But that's just my personal opinion. And like I said, it's more of seeing Cena in a position he's not usually in.
Yeah.
I'd love to go back and watch Lesnar and Cena tons of times, because it's just awesome to see him get German suplexed at SummerSlam 16 times. It's good fun.
That's it. A lot.
A lot, yeah. So that is the event. My overall thought of the event is that the pay-per-view itself wasn't high profile enough to be worth purchasing, which is good considering the network is free. So for a free pay-per-view, I still think it's well worth a watch.
It was also free on for us over here on Sky.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
so, I mean, anyone's going to have an easy time catching this event. And so they should, because the event itself lacked significant star power, I think, Not in my... Let's look at it in the two main events. You've got Cena, who's a huge star. Rusev is building himself up to be a star, and fair enough, he needs to be involved in these sort of rivalries to get to that point. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Reigns and Bryan, I do believe that Bryan is a star. He's not as big of a drawing star as a John Cena, but he's a star. But Reigns is currently on the rise. I tell you what the show misses: a WWE Championship match. That's what it misses, really.
Yeah.
But we all know that point. But as it's free, you can't be too argued about it. My main issue is with the show is that it has a lot of matches on it that will probably happen again at WrestleMania, which I think is a big no-no. But there we go. And the biggest problem with it is I think there was way more interesting points in the non-wrestling segments than there were in the wrestling segments, which it shouldn't be that way on a pay-per-view. On any show, I believe.
That's true. Well, I really can't wait for Triple H thing.
Yeah, like I said, Triple H thing, I don't think they've put... Yeah, they had a little bit of a hiccup with that whole fake Sting stuff, but I think that they've been on their path, and they've had nothing so far that's needed them to deviate from that. I think it's worked okay. It really has. And people may say, "Oh, well, Tony, you want him against Taker." It doesn't mean I can state that the work that they're doing at the moment with this rivalry doesn't work, because it does work.
That's it. It's like I might want it against Taker, but for what I'm getting, I'm not hating it.
So yeah, I think that's the major point that we're stating there, is that the event, it's hard to say, because especially with WrestleMania, coming up, and you've got Royal Rumble, which I know is a little bit disappointing this year, but most years it's such a big event. This one I don't think it doesn't match up to the Elimination Chamber matches that we've had in the years before, but because the network is free, I'll take it. It is what it is, sort of thing. And like I said, I wasn't bored watching the show. I just wouldn't go back and watch it again. I think that's the big...
I'm in no rush to sort of search it out again.
Yeah, but by all means, I wasn't bored, and the show wasn't... Yeah, there was some idiotic bits like the Ambrose stuff, but Yeah, I thought, like I said, the segments, the Triple H Sting segment and the Bray Wyatt stuff was really good. I thought that was really well done. So, to that point, good stuff. So I give the show. Oh, this is tough. I give the show a thumbs up because I don't think it was. I didn't waste my time in watching it, but it's not. I wouldn't class it as pay-per-view worthy. I think, to be honest, WWE does very few events that are pay-per-view worthy.
I think it was better than a Raw, but worse than it could be.
Yes, yeah, it could have been much worse, that than what we got. So I'll take that. And we had some two good matches at the end of the show, and I'll take that. Some good wrestling.
Yeah.
So all in all, if you got a chance to catch it, I would catch it once, but not much after that. And like I said, if you want to catch the best parts, then I'd say the two last matches and the segments is pretty much what you want to see here, to be honest.
Yeah.
But is there anything else that you really want to talk about now?
No.
No, we've got it out there. That's cool. So if you guys did enjoy the episode, please leave a like. You can also subscribe to the channel for our usual episodes and the Let's Talk Mores. Whenever we got a next Let's Talk More wrestling will more than likely be WrestleMania. Wow.
Oh.
Big event. Big event. So,
Do you know one thing I've realised during this pay-per-view, because they played quite a lot of the WrestleMania advert, I really don't like the song they've got for it.
Neither do I. I think that's the same issue that the Fastlane song had. It's too slow.
Yeah,
That's
that
my
Fastlane
issue.
one was terrible. It's just
Yeah.
sort of like, the hell is that playing in the background when they're showing like Michael Cole? It's like, Oh, if one thing, I'm not missing Lawler on Raw.
No, he wasn't.
Big Show's mum had a C, E, C, D, E, and F section.
Yeah, I heard
Really?
that.
Really?
Oh god, so yeah, he's, to be honest, like Booker T isn't that much better, but at least he's a different shade of bad, and it's not a skin color thing. That's just in terms of commentary, guys. So don't go crazy. But you know what I mean? Like he's bad at times for different reasons. He can be nonsensical, whereas Lawler just does flat out bad comedy. So I'll take a different
It's
style.
that sort of person who's just stood there with like a massive smile, just waiting for everyone to laugh along with him. It's like,
Yeah.
that was funny, right?
Yeah, they're the worst kind of people, unfortunately. So, but there we are. That's our review of Fastlane. We hope you guys did enjoy. And like I said, if you do want to subscribe, that way you'll catch our usual episodes. If you want to ask us any questions, this is your last chance for the episode coming up at the weekend. Ask any questions down there below. I will add them onto the show. And apart from that, we hope you guys did enjoy the event as always. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
I think that's about it. Yeah, I can't think of anything else.
I've all plugged myself out.
Oh,
That's it.
oof. All empty of plugs.
All empty of plugs. That's it. All right, guys. We'll catch you guys at the weekend.
We'll see you soon.
Bye bye.